Meghan Markle will return to the UK for the first time in almost 4 years. Joining us now is
I think that the last time Harry was here and he saw his father for 54 minutes over a cup of tea.
Desperation and failure. Meghan is someone who is desperate for fame. She's desperate for money.
Not long ago, she made it crystal clear. Britain was behind her and she was never going back. The decision felt final, confident, almost defiant. So reports surfaced that Meghan Markle is now preparing to return to the United Kingdom. The obvious question isn't just why, it's what on earth happened? Because people don't reverse decisions like that without a reason. And according to royal biographer Tom Bower, someone who has gotten close enough to the truth about the Sussexes that Harry and Meghan once personally hit back at him, there is a very specific reason behind this return. He summed it up in 2 words: desperation and failure. Desperation, failure, 2 words that don't just whisper, they explode through the silence like a scandal nobody can ignore. Because this isn't just a return, it's a reversal so sharp it cuts through everything she once stood for. Think about it. Meghan Markle didn't just leave quietly. She burned the bridge, lit it up for the world to see, and walked away like there was no looking back. So what changes a mind that's certain? What forces someone to circle back to the very place they rejected so publicly?
He is one of Britain's leading investigative journalists and prides himself in producing unflinching biography.
The second she steps back onto British soil, she is no longer just a celebrity with a struggling lifestyle brand and a fading Hollywood presence. She is back inside the royal story. And that is the heartbeat of everything. The royal story. The one thing she tried to outgrow, outshine, outbuild, the same story that made her name echo across continents, is now the only thing powerful enough to pull her back. Isn't that strange? Isn't that just a little too convenient? Because here's where it gets uncomfortable. According to Tom Bower, this isn't emotion, not nostalgia, not healing. This is strategy. Cold, precise, almost surgical. A move designed to inject relevance back into a narrative that's been
thrilled to have you with us. It has been an extraordinary week. Meghan Markle, who denounced the United Kingdom and the royal
slipping, quietly, gradually, but undeniably. You start to see the pattern when you look closer. The lifestyle brand, the products, the carefully curated image. All of it depends on one fragile thing: attention. And attention lately hasn't been as loyal as it once was. It drifts, it fades, it finds new stories. So what do you do when the spotlight starts dimming? You walk back into the brightest stage you've ever known. Because the moment her name reconnects with the royal family, everything changes. Headlines explode, cameras return, conversations reignite, and suddenly every product, every brand, every carefully constructed image.
Both things. That she has turned Harry against his family, there's no doubt about that.
Gets a surge of life it couldn't create on its own. Reconnecting with the royal world, even at a surface level, could begin to open doors that have been firmly closed since the Sussexes left. Doors, that word matters more than it sounds, because those doors didn't just close, they slammed. And behind them, influence, power, prestige, the kind that Hollywood can imitate but never truly replace. So now the question shifts, not why return, but why now? Timing is everything in stories like this, and this timing feels urgent, almost rushed beneath the surface. Because if everything was working, if the deals were thriving, the image untouchable.
Winfrey, do you regret having lied on Netflix and all the magazine interviews? Don't you see? What a terrible mistake.
The influence growing there would be no need to revisit the past. No reason to step back into a world that was once framed as limiting. It is not just that things have not gone to plan financially. It is that the very things she needs most, the attention, the relevance, the sense of being somebody in the room, have been slipping away at exactly the same time. And there it is. Not just money, not just business, identity, relevance, presence, the feeling of being seen. Because when those things start slipping all at once, it doesn't feel like a setback. It feels like something bigger, something louder, something harder to ignore. And suddenly, every decision starts to look different. Every move feels heavier, more deliberate, almost desperate. Because here's the contradiction nobody can ignore. She walked away to build independence, to create something separate, something powerful on its own. But now?
Incompatible, unacceptable. And now they've walked away. A spokesperson for Buckingham Palace.
The only move that seems to make sense is reconnecting with the very system she tried to leave behind. So was it ever truly independence, or was it always dependence dressed differently? And if this return really is happening, then the real story isn't about going back. It's about why staying away stopped working. Positioned herself in a way that left her more exposed than she realized. The woman Bauer is describing is not someone who stumbled into this situation passively. She is someone who made bold choices, believed completely in her own ability to pull them off, and is now dealing with the consequences of a plan that did not land the way she expected. And that is where the illusion finally cracks. Because this was never supposed to look like this. The exit wasn't framed as a risk, it was sold as a masterstroke. A clean break. A new empire. Freedom without consequences. But what happens when the plan you believed in starts quietly unraveling behind the scenes? How to have everything royal life offered while answering to nobody. That line right there, that's the dream that built everything. Everything. The belief that you could take the prestige, the titles, the influence, and remove the rules. Keep the crown without the weight. But reality doesn't work like that. And slowly, almost silently, the cracks began to show. At first, it didn't look like failure. It never does. It looked like adjustments. One deal shifting. One project underperforming. One partnership fading. Nothing dramatic enough to alarm anyone watching casually. But when you step back, when you connect the dots, a pattern starts forming. And patterns don't lie. The Spotify deal disappears. Quietly, but publicly enough to send a message. The Netflix future becomes uncertain. The momentum that once felt unstoppable begins to stall. Not collapse, not crash, something worse. A slow, grinding halt. The kind that leaves you stuck, watching opportunities slip instead of explode. And here's where it turns uncomfortable again. Because the attention they were building everything on wasn't entirely theirs. It was borrowed. Borrowed from the royal connection. Borrowed from the drama. Borrowed from the story they were trying to leave behind. And the further they moved from that story, the colder everything became. Projects couldn't generate the same heat. Brands couldn't recreate the same fascination. And the audience? The audience started drifting. Quietly at first. Then more noticeably. Because attention, once lost, doesn't always come back. And then comes the part nobody wants to say out loud, but everyone starts noticing anyway. The ridicule. The shift in tone. The way the narrative changes from admiration to mockery. And mockery doesn't just hurt feelings, it damages value. Real measurable value. Because when public perception turns, everything connected to that name feels it. Partnerships hesitate. Brands reconsider. Media interest changes tone. And suddenly the same name that once opened doors starts closing them. Now add something else into the mix. The numbers. $3 million a year. That's the lifestyle. The cost of maintaining the image, the security, the presence. And to sustain that, $4 to $5 million annually. Not to grow, not to expand, just to hold the line. Now pause there for a second. Because when income slows but spending doesn't, pressure builds fast. And that pressure, it doesn't stay hidden. It leaks into decisions. It shapes strategy. It forces moves that wouldn't have been considered before. Because when the pipeline dries up, when the audience loses interest, when the deals stop lining up, you don't wait for things to fix themselves. You look for leverage. The one thing that still holds value when everything else starts slipping. And in this case, that leverage is obvious. The royal connection. The very thing that was rejected. The very thing that was criticized. The very thing that was supposed to be left behind. Still standing. Still powerful. Still relevant. Waiting, but here's the part that makes this entire situation feel heavier. More complicated. More dangerous. Because going back isn't just about stepping onto British soil, it's about stepping back into relationships that were damaged. Publicly, deeply, permanently in some cases. And those aren't doors you can reopen with headlines and appearances, they remember. And no amount of strategy erases that. So now the picture becomes clear. This isn't a reunion. It isn't healing. It isn't even redemption. It's a calculated return driven by something much harder to ignore: necessity. Because when everything else starts to fade, you don't go back because you want to. You go back because you have to. And that's the tension sitting underneath everything right now. The part nobody can fully predict. Because the door might still exist, but the people behind it, they're not rushing to open it. And that silence, that hesitation, might be the loudest signal of all.